Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Royal Sussex Live. Welcome, one and all. Thank you so much for being here. Did you like the opening? I thought I'd just sneak up on you with that. Something extremely simple, unpretentious. Yeah. And Antoinette Kennedy, hello. Connie Bowman. Hey, Connie Bowman. And let's see, Lydia Washington, thank you so much for being here first. By the way, I don't think we'll be here for more than an hour. What an ominous thumbnail, huh? Huh. Good versus evil. Mm. And as you know, here in the West, we usually look at things from left to right. Right. As a matter of fact, in politics, I like to believe that what's on the left is good, and what's on the right is William. He even sides with the right wing. What a horrible person he is. Absolutely awful, awful person. And this um, it, thing that this image that they have cultivated for him, which bears absolutely no um, place in reality. It's just not him. And they got people believing that he is William the Good instead of Willie the Terrible. And listen, I don't blame the average person on the street because they don't know the difference. They don't know the difference. They don't pay attention to it like we do. They believe the storyline. And let's face it, when you have a standing army, and that's what I always call it, a standing army of people that are going to shape the narrative, it's um, it's easy for people to fall into that trap. But um, it's been the way of life for the brothers. There is no way that William could ever take the blame for anything. That blame was always shifted to Harry. And even in the what was it, the Crown, I'm trying to think, what did they call that? A um a docudrama. I think that's what they call it, right? A docudrama. And of course, it's loosely based on real life. It's just that everybody there seems to have the actual names of people living or dead. But um, I really got turned off with that because every time there was a scene with the two brothers, Harry's cracking open a beer and handing a beer to his brother. Harry's pouring a drink and then he hands a drink to his brother. They created this image of William always on the peripherique, as they say in France, the perimeter, the outer edges of the event, the a wallflower, right? William, they wanted you to believe that he always had his mind on something greater, that he could never really relax and be a child because he's going to be king. He could never just be another college student because he's going to be king. That is the way it played in The Crown. The Crown was no longer a docudrama, it was science fiction. It was a, what do they call it? A penny dreadful? It was pulp fiction. That's what it was. It was pulp fiction, like a little pocket book. Yeah, like one of those little Reader's Digest stories, not based in reality, but just something made up. and how agonizing. I'm assuming Harry watched it, but that had to be painful. They tried to get around it by making Harry this sympathetic character. Don't even bother with The Crown. It's garbage. The first 3 seasons were epic, but then it took a huge, and I do mean a huge, nosedive. So, for what they created with that series and the way it depicted Princess Diana, the way it depicted Prince Harry, um, I'm going to say that Harry earned that $100 billion or whatever the money was that they got from Netflix. It makes a nice little down payment, but if you ask me, they owe him some more money. They owe him some more money. It was disgusting the way they depicted him. Absolutely disgusting. His entire life, Harry has had to get the short end of the stick for someone that I believe most people wouldn't even want to have a beer with. I think anybody who ever really got to know William, if he wasn't a future king, you'd have no use for him. Absolutely no use for him. Absolute moron. Yeah, yeah. William has main character syndrome. He has main character syndrome, and anything that's fantastic, great, or good about Harry, he believes that he should take credit for it, that he should own it. Imagine treating your brother like an employee. Imagine treating your brother like an employee. I tell you what, Willie doesn't have to imagine it because that's what he's been doing. Okay, let's get on with it. What an amazing view of Manhattan. Now, I cannot decide whether or not that is AI or if that's the real thing. But it really does look like a canyon, doesn't it? A canyon of concrete, glass, steel, bricks, terracotta, maybe the occasional bit of wood here or there. That is awesome. I love that view there. But is it real? I cannot tell. I cannot tell. Well, this is actually a screen saver. No, it's a background for your telephone. I have been collecting those. Oh, there we go. Fourth annual Signal Award finalists. Limonada, Confession of a Female Founder with Meghan. I actually put the link on the community post so you can vote at any time. But I put the link on the community post, and I believe the voting ends on October the 9th. Prince Harry slams claim he felt like official visitor at King Charles meeting. So that is absolutely false. Absolutely false. That is, there's no truth to that whatsoever. They warned Harry about leaking. The Royal Rota, the royal reporters, the tabloid media, whether it's print, television, um, online, wherever it comes from, they have been barking and whining about Harry leaking and briefing. They totally ignore the history of the palace leaking and briefing. Although I have to say thank you, I believe it was either Sussex Soldier or Zandy Sussex. I can't show you the video because it's sources too many things, but they link together a few people that pretend that the palace does not leak, and at least one firebrand that has mentioned it and has never wavered. She's always stayed with that same account of what happens with the royal family. But there were some bad actors, if you will, like Robert Jobson, Kinsey Schofield, and a couple of other people that they know better. And this is my frustration. They know better, and yet they pretend otherwise, especially when they go on, like, say, Good Morning Britain, GB News. I cannot stand, I just cannot stand the way that they go into this character. And it's some of the worst acting you've ever seen. They go into this character where they are pretending to be fair and balanced, that is, unbiased, and that they know for a certainty that the palace would never do such a thing. And they also know for certain that whatever leaks or briefs, it always came from Harry and Meghan's team, even though they know better. They pretend otherwise. And I guess it's just part of life. It's the cost of doing business. There is nothing that is going to change that, especially where their bottom line is involved, meaning, of course, this is how they make their money. So these falsehoods, they're going to just keep perpetuating all of these lies because that's where the money is. That is where the money is. The only thing that gives me any type of comfort is knowing that every day there are fewer and fewer people that are paying attention to them. Fewer people watching GB News, fewer people reading the Daily Fail and the Sun and the Mirror. Every day there's fewer people. Not a lot, but a handful here and a handful there. They are losing their audience. And that gives me comfort. Oh gosh, what was that lady's name? Was it Jasmine? Let me see here. Yes, Jasmine.
We either love to be on one side or royal family, a really polarising subject that we either love to be on one side or the other of. And I think it's really unfair for us to make decisions about what they should be doing and whether they should be coming back. They're a family. If they want them to come back and they decide to spend time with their grandma, then they should do. And the idea that you're calling it could be a distraction and Prince Charles is worried. Well, the distraction proves that beside the Queen, Harry and Meghan are the most popular royals. And so basically, well, you only need to look at today's front pages and the whole weekend to see that Harry and Meghan, if they can splash a picture of Harry and Meghan anywhere with a headline, they will do it. So I'm a producer and I have also worked for Netflix. So I will say this to you. We all say that Harry and Meghan want their privacy, but they want to be in the public eye. They just didn't want to be bullied, abused and harassed by the press. They didn't say that they were never going to come out again and do things on their own terms.
No, they are
shining a light on the Invictus Games, heroes and veterans who should have a light shone on them.
You cannot be a royal and get rich, and Prince Andrew's trying to do that, and it's disastrous. At least they've said we divorce the royal family and we'll get rich separately.
Are you really holding them to different standards than the rest of the royal family? Because we have a whole list that we could bring up of Fergie, Andrew and all the rest of them who have tried to use their royal connections to get meetings and business deals for people outside of this country with our government. That you are holding them to completely different standards.
Let's have some calls.
People love them. They're popular.
That's very easy, yeah.
Jeremy Vine is one of the worst because in that all shucks and that very oh well, yeah, you know, the way he carries on like he's just not sure. Um, he's even more sinister because he kind of sneaks up on you. And then the other thing about Jeremy Vine that makes him such an awful person is he has all these fears. He is suffering from PTSD and such, or is it PTSD? Anyway, he's very afraid because he has been harassed and bullied online. He's been suffering because he has been the victim of virtual stalking, right? I believe there was someone who encouraged people to come after him or whatever. And so the way he articulated his fear that one of these days that all of the negativity that has been pushed out there by this obsessed person, he's going to have someone come after him or try to do harm to him. And yet he will not speak up for Meghan. He will not explain it in that same tone for Meghan. He pretends like there's really not such a problem out there. It's not as big as they say it is, even though he himself is afraid. And trust me when I say this, there's a lot of streets of America that Jeremy Vine can walk down and no one will know who he is. Nobody over here knows him. Very few people. He's a thing over there, not over here. He'd be quite safe here because nobody knows him. But Meghan is a global person. She is a internationally known person. So there's a huge difference. Meghan needs security all the time. And I say it's because of the tabloid media. It's because of Kensington Palace. Pushing these false stories, lies, and constant negativity. So people trying to sabotage reconciliation with the king. Harry had enough of it. He had enough of it because it was trending in a certain direction. And with everything that has happened recently, all of the hard work that Harry has done recently, we already know where the sabotage is coming from. We already know who is trying to do this hit job on the goodwill that has been established over the past few weeks. We know where it's coming from. So, and Harry knows where it's coming from. And so before it got too far out of hand, he decided to take action, which he has a right to do so. So let me get that queued up for you.
Describing media reports about their recent meeting as categorically false. Prince Harry met his father at Clarence House in London earlier this month. It was their first face-to-face meeting since February last year. Well, Guy Lambert is here with me to discuss this. Hi, Guy. What has Prince Harry been saying?
Well, so the Duke... Sussex's spokesperson is referring specifically here to a report in The Sun today that suggested, through sources, that the reunion between father and son that took place on the 10th of September during Prince Harry's 4-day visit to the UK had been more formal than expected, and the Duke was reportedly left feeling like he was being treated as an official visitor rather than family. This was the King and Duke's first face-to-face meeting in almost 2 years. The meeting was also seen to be the first step in improving relations between them both after a deep family rift over the years. And Prince Harry has recently voiced that he would love to reconcile with his family, particularly since the King's cancer diagnosis last year. But what is suggested here by him is that people are trying to sabotage his reconciliation with his father, calling these media reports about their recent meeting categorically false. In a statement, his spokesperson said that these claims were pure invention, fed by sources intent on sabotaging any reconciliation between father and son. And he also corrected part of the Sun's report about a framed photograph that was exchanged. It was reported to feature both the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, but it didn't. The Sun newspaper said Prince Harry had confirmed aspects of its reporting, and it said the Duke's office was given full right of reply in advance of publication and opted not to give a response to the Sun's sourced account of the meeting.
Okay, Guy, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Guy. So there you have it. Let's see here. So this is the Sunday Mail. Harry, men in gray suits are sabotaging my reunion with father. Okay, well, he says men in gray. I say it's the bearded men over at Kensington Palace. Either way, I'm pretty sure they're all in cahoots together. Angry rows heard through palace walls by royal staff as Charles and William go head to head. The royal staff have on occasion heard angry words exchanged between Prince William and King Charles over the years, even through thick palace walls, an expert reveals. And Zandy Sussex says, well, they are talking. Who would have thought that? Angry rows have been overheard by royal staff between Charles and William, even through thick palace walls. That's right, even through those thick palace walls. Well, they framed this as though it's a thing of the past, right? I think not. I think that the angry rows continue when they actually speak to one another. And that, of course, is pretty rare that they actually communicate with one another. It has been said that William prefers to communicate with Charles through one of his courtiers. Now, that is very first world problems. That is very much a first world thing. Excuse me. Meaning, of course, the 1%, the very wealthy 1% of the people on the planet, they tend to do stuff like that. There was a family years ago that owned a hardware chain, and I do believe that the family began to have a meltdown. Really, the whole family kind of fell apart, and I do believe it was to do with the patriarch of the family. I think he was murdered. I think that's what happened. But anyway, it was interesting that this family was very wealthy, and they communicated with each other through the memos at the this is before computers, through memos in the workplace, never really directly speaking to one another. And that seems so alien to most people, but imagine a royal family, and almost certainly that's the way it is. Now, whether or not the meeting with Charles and Harry had been very formal and cold, and whatever it was, Harry was not going to talk about it. Whatever it was, it's probably what it's always been. I wouldn't imagine that it was much different in any way. But there's a lot of people who will say something that seems like it could be true, and then the lie becomes the truth, and then next thing you know, everybody's saying it. This is why Harry had to react when he did, because these lies were taking on a life of their own, and he just did not want things to spiral out of control. So good on his communication team for pushing back. And I hope they do that more often. I mean, I do want them to be selective but I want them to do that more often, because if you do not, your opponent, as they say in politics, never let your opponent define you. Now, this is not politics, but the principle is the same. If you're not saying anything, then your enemy is going to define you. And people are going to believe it, because there's really no other story out there. There's no alternative. So if you don't respond, in some cases, people are just going to assume that that's the truth. So right here, King Charles and Prince William have been overheard in angry rows. Let's see. While some royal experts have dismissed the claims that the monarch and his heir aren't getting along well at the moment, more than one has admitted that over the years. Now, see, they keep saying over the years, and that's because they're not that close. They don't spend much time together. But when they do, this happens. You've already heard Harry say that back in 2020, when they were having a discussion about the Sussexes leaving official royal duty, who was at the table screaming? William. Who was at the table lying? Charles. Harry said William was screaming, and Charles was blurting out all of these things that he knew was not true. And the Queen, she said nothing. She just observed. But also present was the bee, the fly, and the wasp. William screaming. That's typical. One expert recently revealed that the angry rows have been overheard by royal staff between father and son, even through the thick palace walls. When you have servants, you don't really see them as people. They're there all the time. You do whatever you're going to do, because they're not going to say anything. So they live their life in front of the camera, away from home. They live their life in front of the servants at home. When they're away from home, they're more guarded about their actions. But when they're in their house, their palace and castles, well, they don't really have much of a filter, do they? Charles, notorious for his temper. William, even more notorious for his temper. Anne, no fuss, no BS. And of course, Andrew, we already know that he's notorious for cussing out people. So that seems to be a thing that the whole family has, except for one. You never hear Harry has a temper, ever. And I'm just going to exclude the, leaving the bar drunk. That was a child. I'm saying present tense. You never hear that. So Prince Harry's lively UK tour is William's worst nightmare. So that was Tom Sykes back on September 14th. They say that Tom Sykes does have good sources, that he does have access to some sources. Take that with a grain of salt. I'm sure that a broken clock is right at least twice a day. William is more determined than ever to cut Harry out of his life. Now, that is a Kensington Palace brief. Because of the momentum of Harry's visit, William, with his main character syndrome, has to try and slow the momentum by yelling from the sideline that he's more determined to cut hair. It's so childish. These are direct briefs. I'm sure of it. I'm sure of it. Kensington Palace is full of leaking and briefing, and they have been doing it for years now. Without question, I have no doubt. The tone of this just screams, yeah, it's true. The tone of it, the tone of William and his frustrations. And he literally, just like his hero, the occupant of the White House, he has his people push that information out there in real time. It always happens. If any of this was untrue, we already know that Kensington Palace, just as much as they push that BS out there, if something is not correct, if something is false, they will have them change the article immediately. That's happened too many times. So something as you know obvious as this, if it was untrue, they would have heard from Kensington Palace and they would have redacted it. They would have changed it in some way. That didn't happen. So I believe it to be true. I'm just saying, I believe it to be true. William was jealous and he wanted to remind people that he is going to be king, that he has a certain level of influence. And when he pulls their chain, they're going to bark. And what they're going to say? That's what they're going to say. They're going to say William is determined to cut Harry out of his life. And there's no one at Kensington Palace that will ever say, that's probably not a good idea. They'd be afraid to. They wouldn't be there for long if they did. So I'm going to say, yes, William did say that. Prince William's blindsided after King Charles froze him out of Prince Harry reunion. I believe that one too. I do. If it was untrue, I'm telling you, Kensington Palace would have had a fit. They make it too easy. They make it too easy. I don't even have to say, gee, I wonder. I don't have to wonder. Just the tone of it screams Kensington Palace. This is signature Kensington Palace. Harry gains momentum. William reacts. Harry comes over and does a few engagements. William reacts. What does he do? He all of a sudden, his diary is full of events. Real and imagine, he's going to get out there and do something. Let me see. Smarting at suggestions that the Royalists, oh yeah, that's Tom Sykes. The Royalist is his Substack, I think. King Charles and Prince William are at loggerheads, first reported here, but now gaining traction in broader media. The court has moved to project an image of father-son harmony, briefing the Telegraph that the two men are enjoying a mini break in Scotland, set aside for informal chats as sovereign and heir. Now, I do believe this is the third year that this has happened. The third year that this has happened. Since the Queen's death, they have made time for each other in Balmoral. So I do believe that that is where they spend the time together once a year. And we'll know for sure if it happens again next year. Yeah. It was all for show. The only reason why we know that William went up to Balmoral is because someone briefed the press and someone took the photos to make sure that we knew that William was in Balmoral. Yeah, that was also quite deliberate. That was very deliberate. They wanted us to know that. And once again, it's William asserting himself to make sure that people know that he's the heir to the throne and that he has that type of access to his father. Now, one or two things would have happened if Harry did not show up. If Harry didn't show up and spend time with his father, either they would have met quietly and discreetly, which is what they claim this is the third year this has happened, or we would have never heard about it. We had never heard about it. Or he probably wouldn't have gone. He probably wouldn't even gone because they are so distant at this point. I could believe that he may have just not even bothered. But what we do know is that they didn't stay at the same house. Yeah, I believe that one, that they did not stay in the same household. Now, it goes on to say, I can't be alone in thinking that such a transparent attempt to show unity is arguably worse than none at all, as it only serves to highlight the fractures it seeks to conceal. I mean, it's hardly a secret, thanks to their actions, that far from being aligned, Charles and William are bitterly divided on two poorly handled issues that have come to define his reign: Andrew and Harry. Andrew and Harry. And I would imagine that Charles wants some type of normalcy for Andrew. At least he probably did before this last thing came out. And also, Charles wants to have a relationship with Harry. They claim that William wants Andrew out of the picture. Until all this stuff with Sarah Ferguson came out, I don't believe that. I believe they were in agreement with Andrew. William especially, because that means he would be able to do less work. So I don't believe that they were on different sides of that. I believe that they were both hoping to reform Andrew, and it didn't work out. Now, Harry, I'm sure that there's a disagreement there. I'm sure of it. But Andrew, no. Their use for Andrew, their closeness to Andrew is constant. Now, the public face of it, that hinges on what's in the press right now. So if it wasn't for all of this email stuff, it would just be more of the same with Andrew. So I don't think the tough talk that's being briefed from Kensington Palace, that's William trying to look strong, and that's William trying to distance himself from his father. That's him trying to create a public image to contrast his father's image. That's the only thing that he's up to with that. But I don't think he cares about Andrew one way or the other. And truth be told, none of them in the family care about Andrew one way or the other. The only thing they care about is the public perception. None of them are like, ooh, get away from us. They're not like that. You can tell when they were standing outside the church, whatever the press say, it seemed like William was rather amused by his uncle, the buffoon. Okay. Duchess of Kent funeral last week told story in pictures. William refused to acknowledge his disgraced uncle, Andrew, while Charles was photographed laughing with him on the cathedral steps. Do I have to tell you? William saw the cameras. William decided to play opposite his father, right? He was trying to be a yin and yang type of character with his father. Oh, his father's for Andrew, so I'm against him. If Charles was against Andrew, then William would have been for him, and the press would have said that William is so kind and thoughtful, trying to avoid an awkward situation with his Uncle Andrew. See how I can write these stories for them? You just give me the motivation, and I could write the article for them. Whatever Charles did, William was going to go opposite, right? That was it. The only thing that they really can't agree on is Harry. Okay, so moving on. This is Tom Sykes now. Yet Charles is still said to be reluctant to exile Andrew and Fergie, while William would have sent them to the Tower shortly before. He didn't invite them to his wedding. Allies justified Charles' hopeless vacillation on the grounds of Christian teaching, loyalty to the late Queen, indulgence, and also even the bizarre notion that Andrew can't be stopped going to church. William, by contrast, remember I said that William has to play opposite. By contrast, sees only weakness and naivete in the part of his father, on the part of his father, that is. His line is hard and clear. Andrew should be cut off entirely. Never again should he be in the monarch's presence. He fears the same mistake is now being made with Harry. 2 weeks ago, Charles invited Harry to tea and chocolate cake. Harry's team immediately began briefing that he intended to spend more time in the UK. William's nightmare is that his father's innocence, private gestures will morph into public endorsements, culminating perhaps in Charles appearing alongside Harry at the 2027 Invictus Games in Birmingham. There you go. There you go. Now that's the meat of it. All of this is leading up to Birmingham, and William just can't take it. He is terrified of all of this leading up to this show of unity in Birmingham. And he would be obliged to come and support his brother or to maintain that contrast to his father. So, of course, he's not going to come. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't find something to do outside the country for that week. He'll find some way to get out of it. Okay. Let me go to the next one here. The question, the questions I'll be looking to my sources to answer in the days ahead about this Balmoral retreat are simple. Did William stay with his father at Burke Hall or apart at the castle 8 miles away? How much real time did they spend together? And was anything said or resolved about Harry? We must assume William and the other adults will now prevail on the Andrew issue. Well, yeah, of course, Andrew has to disappear for a while. I mean, there's nothing William has to do with that. William prevail. Tom Sykes, let's use some common sense here. Of course, Charles is going to distance himself from Andrew for the time being. He'll be back. He's just like one of those slasher movies. Just when you think the villain is down, they always get back up. What emerges about the Invictus will be crucial. If Charles' team begins suggesting he will attend, while William pointedly says he will stay away, the break will become undeniable. William does not seek to stop his father's reconciliation with Harry privately, but he is determined to block any public rapprochement that might be the thin end of the wedge. Many courtiers agree as they sniffed the mail, meaning the Daily Mail. Harry's team are mistaking tea and cake for the Treaty of Versailles. That's some cute writing, isn't it? The Treaty of Versailles. Okay. Okay. My opinion about that. Number one, there ain't nothing William could do about it. This pretense that William's influence on Charles makes that big of a difference. It does not. Charles has no reason to see William as a viable source when it comes to making decisions because William is a hothead and everything that he does is very reactive. He doesn't think, he reacts. Then he thinks. And what does he think about? Reacting. So he doesn't think, he reacts. And then when he thinks, all of a sudden here comes another reaction. He's going to be a horrible king, just so you know. William ain't got nothing to do with it. Charles is making the decisions. If there's one thing that Charles is not going to yield on after 70 years of waiting for the throne, there will be no confusion as to who is king. Okay? That's why they're not so close, because Charles is not yielding to his beastly son. Okay. William's red line is clear. No royal should grant Harry the legitimacy of meeting or photograph after Spare and Netflix. You mean, in other words, after Harry told the truth about how awful you and your stick figure wife is. Charles, by contrast, is tempted by affection for his darling boy and fear of appearing heartless in the shadow of his illness. William is guided not just by personal grievance, but by public opinion. Now, that I believe William is using public opinion, but he's helping to shape the public opinion with these negative updates and briefings. He was right about Andrew, his friends say. Again, that's no big deal. You can't be wrong about Andrew. How could you be wrong? Andrew is a weirdo and he needs to go. There's nothing to think about. But the one thing, there's a few things that's not going to change. Yes, Andrew may not be invited to certain things, but you're not kicking him out of his house. You're not taking away his security, and you're not taking away his money, right? And he has plenty of it. So whether he is making jokes outside of a funeral, whether he's trying to lead everybody into church at Christmas, it does not matter. He doesn't have anything else to lose. He's as far down as he's going to go. That's it. There's no place else for this to go. Well, then again, we don't know what's in Virginia's book. We have to wait for that. But essentially, William just has to keep making briefs about how he needs to, how Andrew needs to be pushed away. Nobody is going to disagree with that. It's not even anything heavy to decide. I don't think there's anybody on Andrew's side, not even Charles. Charles tolerates his brother. That's it. So using Andrew to look tough, I guess people are buying that, but I think it's just a bunch of smoke and mirror. It's just bluster at the end of the day. It doesn't mean anything. In the big picture, pushing Andrew away is easy. He's been dubbed a perv, and everybody's in agreement with that. All right, so he was right about Andrew, his friends say, and he is right about Harry. No, he's not. With the Harry thing, Harry made him look foolish and lazy when he came to the UK. End of. I actually think he is right as well. This is Tom Sykes saying this. You can't let people say things like that about you or your wife. Again, selective memory. we're forgetting, we're actually not forgetting, we're following the Royal Rhoda narrative that William and Kate are innocent, right? We're going to forget about Kate trying to sabotage the wedding by wearing white and making this big fuss, and the whole thing with the Meghan made Kate cry. Okay, we're supposed to forget about that because Kate is innocent, right? Kate knew that that wasn't true, and yet she allowed a pregnant woman to be abused with a lie that could have easily have been straightened out. But they're willing to lie to protect other members of the family, but they won't tell the truth to protect Harry and Meghan. So Kate is not innocent. Kate is not a nice person. Uh, Kate and William are opposite sides of the same coin. And as for William, well, William jumped on Harry, right? I do believe William is the one who asked about the baby's skin color. And every brief that has come out of Kensington Palace, and there have been hundreds of them, has been done with William's consent. Also, William tried to sabotage Meghan's court case by giving the green light to Jason Knopf to help the Daily Mail. Now, is Tom Sykes going to mention that? No. He's not going to say any of that. But this pretense that Harry and Meghan should apologize to William and Kate. I pray God that never happens, ever. William and Kate are guilty of enough stuff as things stand, both of them. William's friends are blunt. He sees the danger in the way his father does not. Charles Ever the conciliator believes he is embodying forgiveness. In fact, he is gambling the monarchy's reputation on distinction, the private family versus the public institution that the public, by and large, refuses to make. Charles and his Charles and Camilla used Harry and his brother to improve their public image. Charles and Camilla have also participated in leaking and briefing. Harry does not owe them an apology, and neither does Meghan. Harry wants them to apologize. If nobody's going to apologize, then nobody's going to apologize. Period. This is talking out of both sides of your mouth. This really is. Tom Sykes is talking out of both sides of his mouth. Okay. The background to all of this is the long-standing strain between father and eldest son. Harry was Charles' favorite. William thinks Charles' monarchy is pompous and out of touch. Too much ermine, too many uniforms. Charles believes his son shirks duty by putting family ahead of job. When William hesitates to attend the Pope's funeral because it clashed with his Aston Villa match, Charles was aghast. When William declined to mark the VJ Day, courtiers were dismayed. Charles sees tradition, William sees absurd Edwardian relics. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. All of that, you could have just left all of that Harry stuff out of it. This is the meat of it right here. Harry ain't got nothing to do with how Charles and William are getting along. That should have been a very small part of this. Very small, minute. Just say that William is jealous of his brother, and that's it. You don't need all that other stuff. All this unfolds against the backdrop of Charles' illness. Since he disclosed his cancer, insiders have quietly accepted that William's reign has already begun in all but name. That makes every fracture more dangerous. William's authority grows daily, while Charles ebbs away. Aligning against the heir would be folly, hence the furious spin about the many breaks. It's an appalling picture. Father and son walking the heather, talking as sovereign and heir. Well, that's what they are. There is certainly much to discuss. Unfortunately, the conversation that needs to be had are brutal. What do you do about Andrew? What do you do about Harry? What do you do about each other? Charles thinks forgiveness is strength. William thinks indulgence is weakness. Does he? Because William indulges himself? Who is right? Who is wrong? Doesn't really matter. An agreement does. The monarchy cannot look strong if it is being pulled in two directions at once. And it shouldn't be pulled in two directions at once. I disagree that William is monarch in all but name only. The reason why I disagree with that is that Charles has not rid himself of his household staff. When William decides who's running Charles' household, then you know that William is king or regent. But until that happens, Charles is very much in control of his monarchy, not William. William doesn't work enough to be in control of his household, let alone the whole monarchy. He's an absentee Prince of Wales. He takes little responsibility. How could you be so involved with the monarchy if you're on vacation 7 times in 7 months? How could you be in charge of the monarchy? How does that happen? Instead of moving closer to the throne, William is moving further away. Hence the Forest Lodge. Forest Lodge is removing him from the center of things. Again, I get very frustrated with the things that they don't say. Let's see. New details emerge about Prince Harry. Okay, yeah. That was in the Star. BS. Prince Harry slams categorically false claims about King Charles' reunion in rare statement. Well, I made a video about that earlier, so you know the facts about that. Why William is doubling down on rift with his brother. That's the other thing that was leaked while Harry was over there, or soon thereafter. Again, main character Willie had to make sure that he briefed the press that he is going to be even more brutal to his brother, as if there was any doubt about that. Harry accuses insiders of sabotaging reconciliation with King. Harry suggests people trying to sabotage reconciliation. This was everywhere today, by the way. Prince slams those sabotaging any reconciliation efforts between him and King Charles in scathing statement. Prince William still reeling over being blindsided. Let me see, that came out. Oh, that was September 25th, not that long ago. Yeah, he's still complaining. Now, yes, there is a Tom Sykes video, and yes, I am going to play that. Let's get on with it.
going to have a look at some of the comments. Some of the comments here. Yeah, it says Trish. I saw, let's stop all this pretense. Charles is well aware of what his courtiers are doing. If he wasn't aware, he would fire them. They are acting according to his wishes. Well, yes and no. How, and look, fundamentally, you're right, Trish. Like, obviously, no one can work for Charles and massively go against his will. But sometimes, like, compare it to, like, Donald Trump was talking about the deep state. The courtiers are a bit like the deep state. They're a bit like the civil service. They do have a lot of power independently. I'd really recommend Valentine Lowe's book, Courtiers. It's a really good insight into how, they sometimes get ahead of themselves and do things without his mission. But yeah, you're right. Like, ultimately, it's the Charles, and they can't blame the men in grey for everything. Well, with plenty of people within the royal household who do want to undermine the reconciliation between Charles and Harry. For starters, there is William, and plenty of people. And then there are lots of people in Charles's own camp, his courtiers, who don't think it's a great move. And leading among them is Charles's private secretary, Sir Clive Alderton, a well-known Harry foe. I don't think it's any great secret that he is a Harry foe. I mean, it's there in Harry's book. He describes him as the Wasp. He says he's the Wasp. And so it was just, I don't know. I understand Harry's point of view. Like, Harry feels like the back briefing against him and the sort of use of anonymous sources to undermine him. It was one of the main complaints in Spare, and he feels that it was a massive contributory factor in the sort of breakdown of his mental health in the run up to him leaving the family, and part of Meghan's mental health troubles was this. And you can see, right, it would make you feel paranoid if there's stuff appearing in the paper and you've had a conversation with a person and you've said one thing, and then an account of it appears in the newspaper that says something totally different.
You see what I mean? They know that the briefing is a monumental part of the problem. It's huge. It's what fuels the separations in the family, the breakup in the family. It has been fueled by the briefing. And William has been briefing nonstop ever since he made that deal, the invisible contract deal. Ever since he took that money as a settlement, he hadn't shut up since. This is a constant. There's briefing coming from Clarence House, sure, but not nearly as much as Kensington Palace. It is nonstop briefing. You can tell the briefs from Camilla in contrast to the briefs from main character syndrome Willie. And yet the tabloid media, the Royal Rota, they are very selective about when they will admit the incredible amount of briefing. As Harry said, we left. We were gone for a year. And we hoped that at some point the briefing would stop. It did not. So they went on Oprah to set the record straight. They thought that the big shock was going to be the challenge to Meghan's mental health, that would be something that shocked people. They didn't care about that. What they got out of it was who said something about the baby's skin color. And that, of course, turned into Harry and Meghan accused the family of racism. Now, the term racism, people almost forget that nobody said racist. Nobody said racism. That came from the press. That was definitely from the press. And then at that point, the family's poll numbers began to decline. Okay. And then fast forward to the docuseries and Spare. In between the book, in between the docuseries, there was continued briefing. And if there's something that makes the family look bad, they accuse Harry and Meghan and their team. If it's something that makes Harry and Meghan look bad, they won't even owe up to the fact that it's coming from Kensington Palace. It's just sources say. Sources close to. If the briefing ever stopped, I do believe that there would be hope. But the briefing is not coming from Montecito. And then, of course, Clarence House and Kensington Palace, they brief against each other. They brief against each other when it serves them. William is spiraling, immature mess in desperate need of an intervention from the state if needs be, because his behavior is destructive at a national state level. It really is. It really is. It's almost as though he is trying to make the monarchy so petty. It's so petty and immature. It's like the whole monarchy is like some club in high school. Royal source, sure is. I love this. Someone created a what do you call it? An AI image of William there. I am so jealous of my brother. Sure is. Let's see. Palisades have billed this as an informal summit, an indication of how close William and his father are, pushing back after royalists revealed that the two men who have long had a strained relationship are at loggerheads over the question of how to deal with Andrew and Harry. I think we covered that. Yeah, I think we covered that. But okay, so far, Tom Sykes and Tina Brown, they are the two main reporters that are reporting that there is division in the royal household, right? I do believe that Maureen, Richard Eden, I do believe that he has someone briefing to him, a source briefing to him about don't trust Harry and all that kind of stuff, and this is not good for the monarchy. So yeah, and he's an easy one because he's going to repeat everything and even add some stuff to it. We already know how he works. William is up in Balmoral hosting a shooting party. Okay. Oh, Rebecca English spins away the rift between Charles and William. This is another thing that lets you know that there's definitely division between father and son. Rebecca English, and I shared that article the other day, so I'm not going to do it again. But Rebecca English has been doing extra trying to explain away the rift. She's been doing the most. Okay, so Feminagra says Rebecca English frames any suggestion of tension between King Charles and Prince William as mere gossip, online chatter, or even the work of Russian bots. Now, that's the one that I really like, is that for some reason, Russian bots are invested in lying about Charles and William, right? Though, are those the same Russian bots that teamed up with China and Iran to find Kate's medical records? uh, anyway, um, oh yeah, so her latest Daily Mail piece stretches to explain away awkward silence, public frostiness, and years of well-documented conflict. The results is a showcase of Kensington Palace spin. Crucially, English's defense comes on the heels of Richard Eaton's article warning of a sinister plot against William and Kate. Together, the two stories look like a coordinated Daily Mail effort that is designed to shield the Waleses and get ahead of a damaging narrative. Which reminds me, aside from them being very unwilling, right, to say anything about the briefing, the other thing is they refuse to mention how lazy Will and Kate are. Now, Amanda Platel, she tried to find a way to do it, and then they forced her to apologize. So she did a non-apology. It was very snarky, and I loved it. And also, who was the other one? The one that said something about the house. You had the two articles, both from Daily Mail writers, that really challenged the Waleses, right? And now you got these two, Eden and English, Rebecca English and Richard Eden, trying to counter those articles. People are very bothered by the fact, and when I say people, I'm just speaking of the Will and Kate supporters. They are very upset that they are being challenged. They want to play the sympathy card. They don't want anybody to say anything to them. If you don't fix this now, it is not going to get any better when Charles is gone. It's only going to get worse. The only reason why they spoke up is because William is drifting further away from the throne, not closer to it. And they're not able to make money because Will and Kate will not go to work. It's only so much they could talk about the Sussexes because everything is pretty much repeating itself. And so if you don't have Will and Kate to balance that, do you know how much money they're losing? How many readers they're losing? A lot. A lot. And they're trying to get them to step out of their circles and go make some money. Queen Elizabeth said you have to, she has to be seen to be believed. Okay, so, so this is Rebecca English quote right here, a direct quote from Rebecca English. But there's now more than a flicker of suspicion in royal circles that something more calculated could be at work. What or who may be behind the conjecture isn't clear, but it is a worrying turn of events after I revealed earlier this year that Kensington Palace had discovered Russian bots were seeking to disseminate misinformation around the Princess of Wales' prolonged absence from public life in the run-up to her cancer announcement last year. Rebecca English. So Feminegro continues, excuses that do not add up. English claims William looked solemn outside of Duchess of Kent's funeral because he was protecting the dignity of the grieving family to bolster the heir's image. English even dredged up a supposed row between father and son over ivory artifacts. Now, if you don't know what that's about, let me tell you. William, who loves to declare things, remember he's going to bring peace to the Middle East. He is going to end homelessness. He is going to find something about the environment. All of those things that William says that he's going to do, right? Well, one of his big projects was ridding the royal collection of ivory, right? And of course, no sooner than he brought it up than Charles had to slap him back down. Remember Charles, who's afraid of William? Charles said there will be no ridding of the ivory in the royal collection, period. And that was the end of that. So if it was up to William, they'd burn it. If it's up to Charles, it stays. And I can assure you that by the time William gets on the throne, he is going to change his mind and the ivory will remain in the royal collection. Watch. Anyway, that's what they're speaking of with the whole thing with the ivory. William wanted to destroy, Charles wanted them preserved. Readers are told this spat is the kind of clash any family might have. Well, I don't know. I don't think too many families argue over the ivory collection. But now many families are shouting at each other over the but not many families are shouting over each other, shouting at each other over the royal ivory treasures. The pieces also spend time reminding us William is Diana's son, as if repeating this softens the hard truth that father and the heir remain visibly distant. Blaming bots while skipping the real story. Blaming the bots while skipping the real story. Perhaps the most striking part of English's article is an attempt to push criticism to Russian bots. According to her, online speculation is being stirred up by outside actors who goes unsaid is that William's record of light duties and repeated holidays has been criticized for months, right? William's records of light duties and repeated holidays have been criticized for months. That's what she's not talking about. She's talking about Russian bots. She's talking about father and son and this and that. But she's not talking about the fact that people, and I mean a lot of people that don't even care about the royal family, are talking about these vacations and the lack of work. And there's been a few articles in the tabloids that have called into question, where's Willie? Prince and Princess of Wales skipped solemn occasion, VJ Day, but turned up at Wimbledon and other glamorous outings. William's sporadic work contrasts sharply with Prince Harry, who often delivers more impactful results in a single week than William does in months, plural, if not years. It is not foreign interference that fuels frustration. It is their choices, and that choices did not work. Even the portrayal of Donald Trump's state visit as a diplomatic triumph is absurd. Protests erupt across London. The royals were criticized for entertaining a leader accused of racism and authoritarianism, who insulted Britain and its London mayor almost as soon as he left. Eco activist, is it Livia Firth, returned her MBE in disgust, calling the royal embrace of Trump appeasement. English's glowing assessment, her glowing assessment reads as fantasy. Now, lastly, an heir without his shield. An heir without his shield. For decades, William avoided scrutiny because Prince Harry was the lightning rod. Negative stories about William were swapped for attacks on his younger brother and his wife, Meghan. Now that the Sussexes have stepped away, William has no shield. His shield is gone. No Harry. English dares not pin the current rift on on Harry. Doing so risks provoking a public response with evidence to back it up. Instead, she and her colleague Eden invoke vague conspiracies, hoping readers will believe invisible forces are at play. But the more excuses she offers, the more William looks weak and unable to face criticism on his own. Even engagement data shows the problem. Coverage flattering William and Kate struggles to gain traction. The coverage that is flattering to William and Kate struggles to gain traction, while a simple post about Meghan's endeavors attract thousands of comments. The contrast is stark. The Sussexes thrive on merit and independent projects, while William depends on a palace machine, tabloid protection, and taxpayer funding to appear relevant. So there you go. Thank you, Feminegra. Wow, one of the comments with that article says Willie is becoming the UK's future emperor with no clothes. He always been spoiled child. Now that spoiled child has become an out of control man who's been born with much privilege. I was about to say a silver spoon in his mouth, or a silver foot in his mouth. Man who was born with so much privilege, resources, and wealth at his fingertips that could have changed thousands of lives. Unfortunately, Willie proving by his actions that he didn't get his mother's heart. People are watching a lazy, spiteful, hateful man who's more interested in trying to destroy his brother and sister-in-law and anyone else who disagrees with him. The firm created a monster. Now they've lost control. Yes, they have lost control. They have created a monster. Instead of the Frankenstein monster, it is the Willie Stein monster. Yeah, there's Rebecca English trying to spin the story and make it seem like. And did you guys see that William is he had a beer with whatever that guy's name is, where he said that it was the roughest year of his life. Last year was the roughest year. I don't know why they keep doing that. They are hoping to drum up sympathy from the public. Now, William took him on a tour of Windsor Castle. Your wife is alive. Your father is alive. You're still rich. Your kids are going to the best schools. You're healthy. So all of this talk of how rough it's been, wouldn't it have been better to ask real people with real problems how their year has been? How did they get along without a staff of some 60 or 70 people, without a fleet of automobiles and SUVs, without helicopters and private jets? without the ability to fly off to the Isle of Mystique or to go skiing in France? How did everybody else get along without that? So, yes, rough year. Well, you did more than made up for it. You went from one of the roughest years in your life to one of the best, easiest years in your life. It just doesn't get much better. And then on top of that, you just moved into, well, you're moving into yet another home. William and Kate averages about 2.2 homes a year. 2.2 homes a year since they've been married. I'm sorry. They get, what is it? No, I'm sorry. I'm doing it backwards. Every 2.2 years, they add another home. That's what I'm trying to say. William, the hardest year I've ever had. Really? Really? So you're broke, right? So you don't know how you're going to feed your kids, how you're going to keep the electricity on. I mean, yes, you lost your grandma, but she was 90 something years old. And as for your wife with her precancerous cells, really? I mean, was there ever a day when you had to face things like real people? I doubt it. Remember, he said that Kate had 2 Filipino nurses, round the clock, 2 Filipino nurses. Now, I've watched many a loved one go through cancer, and not a single one of them ever had access to a round the clock nurse until it was close to the end. True story. I don't ever remember going to visit my grandmother and saying, "Oh, well, let me go say hi to your 2 Filipino nurses," because she didn't have them. Kate has never been a patient. Kate has just gone for treatment because there is no waiting room for Kate. You just go. And anything that you don't want to go to, they'll bring it to your home. Yeah, that's terrible. That is absolutely terrible. Workshy Prince William. Now, Muriel sent me this. Muriel sent me this. This is an article from 2017. Not so long ago, is it? Workshy Prince William step up to the plate with Paris trip that could not be about his mom. Amid a wave of criticism, the Duke had to make his first official visit to Paris. He was lambasted for being work shy, for not attending the Commonwealth Day observance, and video of him emerged partying instead. That's the real William. That's the real William. The one that they are trying to paint as this dutiful heir could not even go to the Commonwealth Day, which was the most important day on Queen Elizabeth's calendar. He went skiing. Excuse me. He went skiing instead. And nothing has changed. And I promise you, when he becomes king, nothing will change. You know what he reminds me of? He reminds me of, let's say, a guy that is kind of like a playboy, a swinger, always fooling around with someone at all times, right? And he thinks that if he just marries the right girl, that he's going to settle down and he's not going to do that stuff anymore. Right. And then that turns into, when the baby is born, I'm going to settle down and I'm not going to do that stuff anymore. Right. And then it's always some kind of milestone. When that happens, I'm going to settle down. And I'm not saying that he's cheating. That's not the point that I'm making. But I'm saying that in his case, when he becomes king, he's going to settle down and he's not going to travel all the time. When he becomes king, he's going to take his work more serious. Everything that's wrong with him will be made right when he becomes king. That's the kind of person I think he is. He's one of those guys that is looking for something outside of himself to settle him. And in his case, he just needs to get his father off that throne so that he can show everybody how it's done. Now, a furious TV star turns on Meghan and warns this is the last straw in wild rant. A reality TV star who was a former super fan of Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, has turned against Prince Harry's wife in a bizarre rant on her podcast. Well, if you were watching yesterday, you already know who that is, right? This one. I cannot believe how much traction this has gotten. But of course, I should believe it because she used what name? Meghan. So all you got to do is use the Duchess of Sussex, and all of a sudden, everybody's talking about it. So I'm hoping that at some point, people are going to remind everyone one of the reasons why she probably did not get a gift box. She has so much baggage, lots of it, including this, where she falsely accused someone of theft. And she wasn't alone. See there? Vanderpump Rules, Stasi Schroeder, Kirsten Doubtfire, is that right? Doubtfire, after a racist false police report. And look over there. This was back in 2020, by the way. Vanderpump Rules, Stasi Schroeder dumped by publicist and agent after Faith Stowers accused her of racist behavior. Now, do we really want to keep talking about this damn gift box? Anyway, I talked about that enough yesterday. The British version of the Met Gala is being planned to take place in October at the British Museum. The museum hopes, oh gosh, I cannot see that on my screen. There's numbers in the corner. Let me find my, yep. There it is. Okay. The museum hopes to emulate the star-studded New York event, which raised more than $30 million this year. So I think this is going to happen in about a month. They've already sent tickets out. So yes, there's going to be something of a quasi, isn't that what they always say about Harry and Meghan? Their quasi-royal tour. Well, there's going to be a quasi Met Gala type of thing at the British Museum. So that's going to be interesting. I can't wait to see it. It's going to involve a lot of fashion and fundraising. So I hope it is a success. Oh, hey, soul brother. Thank you for being here. Popularity is on the decline for the royals. Every so often, they have one of those emotional support polls that show that they are still number one. That's fine. Let them have it. The truth is, most people are kind of fed up with them. And in particular, William, who by every matrix is supposed to be a superstar, number one, most loved and all that. We'll see. We'll see. I don't believe those polls. I think that they pose the questions to select people. And do remember that a lot of older people keep the same phone numbers and stuff like that for years. Um, Registered voters and stuff, they're easier to contact. But a lot of the younger people, well, good luck with that. So I don't accept those polls to be true. I do not think that they are rooted in good science. I think they are created to push the public's perception of the royal family as successful. But there's a desperation where William is concerned. And anybody who's not seeing that hasn't been paying attention. This is why they write articles critical of the Waleses, because they're trying to coerce them into being more active in the institution. But they have not over the years, and they will continue to shirk away their duties and responsibilities every chance they get. They are not interested in the work. They're only interested on those big occasions where they can really enjoy themselves and get a lot of attention. But the little things, not so much. I think William really wants to be a producer. I think William really wants to make films and documentaries just like his brother. I do not believe that he really wants to do the work. I think his idea of being a king means that he is the star of his own documentary. He is going to create many hours of footage, thousands of hours of footage that can be strung together in the future to tell his story. He's not going to depend on the print press as in the past. He's not going to depend on the Royal Rota, even. He's going to have his own brand of publicity, and he's going to tell his own story and not leave it to anyone else. So that's what I think he's up to. But I think he really wants to make films more than the Sussexes do. Den of Demons. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. And guess what, you guys? I am done. Done, done, done. Thank you all very much. I am going to go shopping tomorrow, and I have to meet someone at noon. So I am going to be on time. I'm not going to use CP time. I'm going to use real time. Yes, I'm going to use real time. I'm going to stick to the clock, the real clock, not my own time. So we'll see how it goes. Whatever happens, I started off with the best of intentions, didn't I? Thank you, Cookies and Cream. Let's see. Tom Sykes is a liar and a weirdo. Tom Sykes is still playing to the palace. I do believe that he really wants to do the right thing, but you can't trust him to do that. He has a Substack, but that's not where he's making his money. He makes his money from the what is that thing? The whatever paper that is. The Daily Beast. I think it's the Daily Beast, right? Yeah, that's where he makes his money. None of them have found a way to make money away from that institution. And also, the access to the royals is a huge reason to play along with them. Thank you, Maggie Ward. There is no authenticity, and without that, there is no story of Will. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true. There's going to be a lot of holes in that story. One of these days, you guys, it is going to be more of an advantage to drag that family than there is to make up stuff. There's going to be a great advantage to dragging them, just like this thing with Prince William and Penny Natchbull. I keep seeing more and more stuff about the so-called alleged affair, but they're kind of running the clock down and people are going to lose interest. Sweet dreams are made of this. Who am I to disagree? I traveled the world and the seven seas. Everybody's looking for something. Some of them want to use you. Some of them want to be abused. I forgot the words. I messed it up. Hold your head up. Keep your head up. Hold your head up. Hey, did you guys see those pictures of Anna Wintour and Meryl Streep? I'm trying to avoid looking at all these photos and videos of the Devil Wears Prada 2. I'm trying to avoid it because I want to be surprised and see everything when the movie comes out. That's how I prefer it. Grinning like Dan Wooten, yeah. Nice shit-eating grin. You guys, they are closing a bunch of Starbucks across the country. A lot of Starbucks are closing. They've closed quite a few. The consumers have spoken. In Chicago, they are closing 131 South State Street, 209 West Jackson, 151 North Michigan Avenue, 1520 West Harrison, 120 South Riverside Plaza. That's in the West Loop. 5964 North Ridge, Edgewater. They're closing the Hyde Park store. 116 South Halsted, closing. What else? Milwaukee Avenue, Wicker Park, Clybourne, Old Town, Taylor Street near West Side, 1430 West Taylor, Chestnut Street, Streeterville. Oh, wait, where is the Starbucks there? Anyway, 111 East Chestnut. Oh, I think I know where that is. What else? 3232 West Foster. All of these are closing Friday or Saturday this week. So they're closed already, I think. 9438 South Ashland and 1730 West Fullerton, Lincoln Park. Good grief. All the humanity. I mean, they're not just in one area, they're all over the city, closing them. Not me, Miss Z. I always say, as long as there's coffee, there's hope. Yeah, as long as there's coffee, there's hope. I drink coffee because murder is illegal. All those stores they're closing. Oh, that is maddening. Well, there's that huge store on Michigan Avenue, the one with the curved escalator. There's an escalator that curves around. It's the only one I've ever seen in life. Hey, Hazel, I didn't know you were here. Okay, cheers, everyone. Love you guys. I'll see y'all next time.